here's a breakdown of the menu that I came up with. So I'm going to try to feed the family for 7 days on $25. And most people, almost everyone, has on hand some spices, some flour, some sugar, and some kind of fat. Maybe it's oil. You can absolutely make pie crust out of oil. You can. Maybe I'll do a video on that at some point. It's not my favorite, like it's not my preferred method. I don't think it's as flaky as some of the other things that I use, because I usually make a butter and lard pork fat crust. But it is good. And these are just some things that most people have on hand, and that's how I figured up doing this menu. So for the first day, I'd take a couple of the bananas, probably 2 of the bananas, and mash those up and make a banana bread with some flour and sugar and some spices. And then I personally have some dried nuts on hand, so I'd throw some of those in there. But if you didn't, a plain banana bread that doesn't have nuts is just as good. And there's a million recipes out there for it. So, and then a couple of the eggs, probably 2 of the eggs would go into the banana bread. So then for lunch, I would probably I'd say I'd err more on the side of a fried rice, because if you were to cook up a batch of rice and put it in the refrigerator overnight, let it get nice and cold, and then take a couple of cups of that out and put a little oil in the pan, saute up some of your veggies, so maybe like a little bit of your onion, a little bit of garlic, maybe a clove of garlic, some of the peas and the carrots, and then 1 of your eggs, and scramble the egg up. And you just do that all in there. I have a little bit of soy sauce on hand, but if you didn't, it would be perfectly fine to just use some salt and maybe some spices that you have hanging around. It doesn't have to be exactly the way that you get it when you go out to eat. It doesn't have to be that way. You can make it up as you go along if you're working with a budget and you really want to try to save some money. Sausage flatbreads. So what I would probably do is cook up all of my sausage ahead of time, and then I just use them as I went. So I'd chop up maybe 2 of the sausage links. Say I have 6. Chop up 2 of them. And then I'm going to make some flatbread. Flatbread is the super easy thing to make. It's literally water, flour, some spices, and a little bit of oil. You mix that up and you let it sit for about 30 minutes. And then you split it off into sections, and you weighted little pieces, and then you roll it out and you fry it. So you'd put like a little tiny bit of oil or butter or lard, whatever you have, in a pan, and then you just basically toast it in the pan. It's almost like cooking a tortilla. And then I would take a little bit of that American cheese and maybe a couple of slices of the onion and saute those up and put it in with the sausage and make myself like a flatbread grilled cheese almost for dinner. And that is delicious. The next morning for breakfast, apple pancakes. So I would take some of my flour and some spices. I have some baking powder and baking soda on hand, some salt, some sugar, that kind of stuff. And then just add your apples, slice up your apples and puree them, and add your apples in or chop them up and add them in. And then that will give you some apple pancakes for breakfast. And you could even chop up some apple and put it on top too. And then if you say you wanted to do a syrup and you don't have any maple syrup on hand, I personally do, but maybe you don't have any in your pantry. Well, then you could take a little water, a little sugar, cook that down. You're going to make a simple syrup, add a little bit of spice into there, maybe some cinnamon, or maybe you put some of your apples right in there and caramelize those, and then pour that over the top of your pancakes, and there's your syrup. And then for lunch, you could save some of those flatbreads, because if you make an entire batch of flatbreads, say that you have maybe 6 of those. Now you've got enough to make yourself some grilled cheese sandwiches for lunch. Add in some of those crumbles of the American cheese and just grill it up just like you would a grilled cheese. And then burritos, I figured, for dinner the second night. So some of the rice, cook up some of the rice, some of the beans, add some spices into those, and then add a little bit of that American cheese again, and make sure you have maybe a little chili powder or something in with the beans and rice, and there you go, bean and rice burritos. Or you might even add like one of the chicken drums. You might saute that up and shred it and put that in there, or one of the sausage links, chop it up fine and put that in there. So that would be tasty. And I would make the tortillas, because you're trying to save money here, so you're going to make everything you can from scratch, as much as you possibly can. And some people are like, oh, well, it takes a long time to do all that stuff. That is true. But say that you have like a cleaning and cooking day. Like say that Sundays or something, you have Sundays off. So you do your cleaning and cooking on that day. So that's the day that you would make all of your breads. You can freeze this stuff. So if you make a bunch of flatbreads, a bunch of tortillas, your banana bread, all that stuff, and go ahead and pop that right in the freezer. And then you just take it out as you need it throughout the week. That's what I would do. On day 3, I figure we still have some banana bread left over, so we have a little more banana bread for breakfast. And maybe chop up a banana and have that too with it, you know. And then for lunch, some chicken noodle soup. So I would take the leftover bone from the first meal that we had with chicken. Say we had it with some with the burrito. Take one of those drums, because you get about 5 drums in the 2-pound pack. And then take a second drum, throw those in a pot with some water, boil it up, and use that, shred that, and take the skin off and shred it, and get rid of the bones. And then you're going to add in your, you can make the noodles by hand. And it's very easy. It's just egg and the flour and a little salt, maybe some pepper if you're into it. And then there's tons of recipes for that too. And you can make that with all-purpose flour. You do not have to have any specialty flour to make that. And then you just slice the noodles up and boil them real quick. And throw them, or you don't even have to boil them in this instance, because you can put them right into the soup. Saute up some carrots and onion, a little bit of garlic, and maybe some peas. Throw that in the pot with the chicken stock and the shredded chicken. And then throw yourself a handful of noodles in there, and there you go. And then some extra, save some of those noodles that you make. And for dinner, you could do some cheesy noodles. So just take a little bit of your chicken broth and some of that cheese, and melt that cheese into the chicken broth. And then stir that into your noodles and just have noodles for dinner. And then for breakfast the following day, I was going to do sausage, egg, and cheese sandwiches. So again, back to your flatbreads. You're taking one of those sausage links, and instead of cooking it, I might save one and split it down the middle, take it out of the casing, mix that up with some spices like some sage, some salt, pepper, and flatten it out and make yourself some breakfast sausage patties. You could even add some apple in there and make an apple sausage patty, and then do egg and some of that American cheese on the sandwiches. And then that would pretty much be the end for your eggs. And then for lunch, a bean and rice bowl. Dinner, sausage gumbo. Breakfast the following day, rice cereal. So you can cook up some of that rice, add a little sugar into it, maybe a little bit of apple or a piece of banana, and make yourself a nice cereal. There's nothing wrong with eating that for breakfast. It's really good. And then for lunch, lemon and rice chicken soup, because you're going to have some of that broth left over most likely. That'll make quite a bit of broth. And then for dinner, cheesy sausage rice balls. Just whatever rice you have, chopped up sausage, like minced, maybe a little sauteed garlic and onion. And then you mix all that together with some of the cheese and form some rice balls. And then just put a little oil in the pan and you saute them up. Let them cook in the pan. Get them nice and cold first, and then you let them cook in the pan. And they're tasty. Those are really, really delicious. That's a nice dinner. And maybe I might even do a little bit of broccoli with that too, like as a side. Yum. Day 6, apple banana smoothies. I would literally just put banana and apple in a blender and add some water to it. And I'm not kidding, that is a tasty, tasty breakfast, a tasty smoothie. There's not much to it, and you don't need much. It's really good. Lunch leftovers, you'd likely have some stuff left over that you could whip something out of, put together and whip something up with. Dinner, sausage and peas pasta. So saving some of those noodles that you had the other day from the cheesy noodles and making some sausage and peas and just putting that together, maybe a little butter, and there you go, salt, pepper. Day 7, rice cereal with apples. So cooking up, saving over from the rice that you had the first day, maybe the first set of rice cereal that you had, and making it with apple instead of banana, or you could add apple and banana slices to it, whatever you have. And then lunch, broccoli soup with grilled cheese. So we're going back to that chicken again. Maybe we use another 1 or 2 of the bones, of the drumsticks, and making another stock, and then making a broccoli soup. So you're just going to cook your broccoli, maybe some of the garlic and onion in that, and then cook it down, and then puree that, and there's your broccoli soup and another one of those sandwiches, a grilled cheese sandwich. And in that case, I would likely make my grilled cheese sandwiches just less sandwiches. Making the grilled cheese sandwiches just less sandwiches. So maybe you make only 2 and you split that between the family because you already have the broccoli soup. And then dinner on the 7th day, chicken pot pie. So I would take a little bit of the butter and lard and some flour and make myself a crust, and maybe add a little bit of spices to that, and then make myself a chicken pot pie with some of the soup. You could do like the leftover soup, add a little flour to it and thicken it up, and then pour that right in, and there you go, there's your pot pie. So you're really like using, when you're shopping for something, you're doing it this strict and this cheaply, you're really utilizing every bit of every single thing that you have. Like, you don't want to waste anything. And nothing is against the rules when it comes to this, except for eating everything in one sitting. So like, obviously you wouldn't make all of the sausage and use all of the sausage in one sitting for sandwiches. You're going to spread it out. You're going to cook off your 2 sausage links, slice those up, and use those, put those in a layer on the flatbread with the cheese and grill it. And that's going to make your sandwich, instead of using an entire link per person, because you're going to run out, you know? So you have to really kind of think and utilize what you're doing. Utilize what you have on hand, you know, and then use that to be creative in what you're making and make your menu really creative. And it seems like a lot of work, but I'm telling you, if you just spend one afternoon prepping everything and getting everything ready to go, it's not. It's easy. I've done it lots of times. There's been many times where I didn't have enough money to really do a full grocery shopping trip. And I do that even a lot now because I've done this so much and I've bought things on sale so much that I don't need to spend a lot at the grocery store weekly. I just don't. Sometimes, some weeks I only spend $20 or $30 because I literally have so much food on hand I don't need it. So that's what it is. So good luck, guys. I hope that this helps somebody out. This is a really fun menu. Enjoy.